Welcome back to Magic in the Noise. Earlier today, David, I sent you a post from Tunde, who is a remote viewer in Britain, about hallucinogens and time travel.
Yeah, which was interesting because we saw some potential correlation to some work that I had done for you on one of the targets. But he had mentioned something interesting. In my opinion, it was more in alignment with kind of the information I got, which was that the honey itself might have actually allowed this kind of effect to occur.
Allowing people to maybe experience different timelines or to take a little glimpse into other times in the past or the future. And I thought it was so fascinating because the session that you did for me on this target that I had given you, the time machine target, was phenomenal. And so I just wanted you to talk a little bit about the main page where you were describing this hallucinogenic honey.
Yeah, I had a lot of interesting information in that particular session. You tasked us to look at the aspect of a time machine. We won't cover it in great detail here, but we'll touch on one of the highlights of that. In that session, I think in that case, I almost bilocated because I could see it visually, but also it became a little bit more than that for me. But I was starting to pull data about this sort of ancient place. I felt like it was in the past. It looked kind of like Greek or Mesopotamia, maybe. There was a lot of carvings, reliefs, pillars, things like that. It was a complex kind of area. But there was one spot that they had soldiers that were guarding this particular structure. And one of the things that was really interesting to me that my focal point was on was this unusual structure that was hanging in this hallway area that was sort of an open-aired hallway to the outside, but it was sort of protected from the elements.
When I was doing analysis, there was something about your session. You know, sometimes, David, you project when you're remote viewing. I've noticed a few times. Yeah. And when I do the analysis, sometimes I feel like you're kind of taking me there with you, especially if you have a bilocation or a nearby location. When I analyze that data, I really feel present in your experience. And that was one of these cases where I knew right away he's describing this hallucinogenic honey as a time traveling device. And I could feel the experience of it as you were describing it in a way that was really visceral. That's why I love analyzing your remote viewing sessions.
Thank you. And I do remember that when you had told me through feedback that hallucinogenic honey existed, which I'd never known of before that. Kind of blew me away because the structure that was hanging was organized like a bee's nest, but it was designed, it was almost like engineered, like beekeepers would do today, but it was a different kind of structure. And yes, that it seemed like it was associated with bees. The other thing about it that I picked up on as I kind of probed that area was that it felt like that this location had some kind of paranormal component to it that was associated with time. And I felt like that they had placed this structure in the right location to actually accelerate the production of, in this case, possibly this honey, right? Which, of course, if the honey is used to allow your consciousness to move through time, you could kind of understand that possibly the compounding of that effect, a paranormal time element basically being infused in the honey that you actually ingest to then hallucinate to go through time, probably would be pretty potent.
Yes, definitely. I think it would make sense that they would farm and harvest the honey so that they would kind of set the structure up for the honeycomb. It does seem like in the past they were using this honey for different rituals and things like that. And so the idea that they found a place that somehow amplified that effect, I think that's really interesting.
Yeah, I did too at the time. I found it to be quite fascinating, that particular element of the session work. I also got the concept, which I wrote down as Time Lords.
That was one of the sessions that really blew me away. You just kept referring to time, going forwards and backwards in time, different techniques of time traveling, using technology, using natural products. And so it was a great session. And maybe if we find time, maybe later this summer, we'll do a longer video more in depth into your data.
Sounds good. So hope the audience enjoyed some fragments here that we've shown of that particular session.
Yes.
And if you have any comments on this sort of thing, maybe you've used the honey to move through time, let us know. I'd love to hear about it.
And if you want to see the longer version where we go more in depth into the different techniques that David picked up on for time traveling, then let us know that too. And maybe we'll bump it up on our list of things to do this summer.
Yeah. All right. Bye.
Good night.